So let's talk a minute about what forgiveness is not. Just to clarify what forgiveness doesn't mean. First, forgiveness does not mean pretending the offense didn't hurt. Okay, and I think someone have already mentioned that. You know, it doesn't mean that it didn't hurt, because you have to recognize the hurt. I think Debbie, you mentioned about talking about forgiveness and forgetting kind of being that whole package, and I kind of was raised growing up that, you know, if you forgive, you got to forget the hurt as well and the emotion, and that's the hard part. You know, how can you, when someone calls you something or insults you in such a way that's just demeaning or demoralizing? And you mentioned segregation, how a whole, you know, just so many people still happening today, unfortunately, in any other ways that just affects so much. So there's the emotion that hurts. So forgiveness does not mean pretending it didn't happen. In fact, forgiveness actually requires honesty about the wound, understanding the wound. You cannot forgive what you refuse to acknowledge. And so that's something that, you know, that's so great about forgiveness is really understanding the root of it. Because sometimes we may think it's on a surface level, but there's more of a root going on. I remember one time somebody told me that it took them a while to realize that they had a lot of unforgiveness towards their mom and how she treated them growing up. But they always thought it was more towards like their family, their kids, and I think at that time it was his wife. But it really rooted deeper than that. And so we just, you know, we have to acknowledge it. That's part of forgiveness. Second, forgiveness does not mean excusing sin. Doesn't mean excusing sin. When we forgive, we're not saying the behavior was acceptable. We're saying we will not personally carry the burden of revenge. Being revengeful, something that definitely is against God's teaching, not to be revenged. Of course, we just read some things here that Paul taught us. And so not personally carrying that burden of revenge with us. Thirdly, forgiveness does not mean immediate trust. Immediate trust. You know, sometimes when we do we give forgiveness, sometimes people think it's, you know, automatic 150%. That's right. You know, party's back on. And that's been the hard things with people in relationships, that we know if there was any infidelity or something happened, and then there was some reconciliation happened, we come back together, we're going to try it again, and there's a hurt that happens because they expect things to return back the way that they were before all that happened. And sometimes it doesn't, it's not that way. It takes some time. That's why I say it takes time. And so a lot of people get hurt and even get bitter because it wasn't the same. But it takes that time. And it's not a means for immediate trust. Trust is rebuilt slowly through consistent behavior, slowly. And trust is, and through that consistent behavior, forgiveness may happen in a moment of obedience, but trust often takes time. So it's kind of almost like opening the door, okay? Forgiving, opening the door, and then as I walk slowly through it, to start rebuilding that trust back again. Because that's hard, right? Trust is building it. It's hard. Sometimes, you know, you talk about children a lot today. They're so easy to trust things, aren't they? And then their feelings are hurt when that trust is broken. And then we learn and we mature from that, don't we? That, well, for me to have a trusting relationship, it's going to take some time. Even when we started trusting God. The forgiveness can happen, but the position of trust may still be lost. Because again, that's a time thing. Forgiveness addresses the heart, not the justice system. That's not my quote, by the way. Something I had gleaned a long time ago in seminary. Forgiveness addresses the heart, not the justice system. And so that's what forgiveness is not. So let me go over those, because I know those aren't on your outline. So let me go the four things to clarify what forgiveness does not mean. Number one, forgiveness does not mean pretending the offense didn't hurt. Secondly, forgiveness does not mean excusing sin. Thirdly, does not mean immediate trust. And fourthly, it does not eliminate consequences. So just some things to kind of put our minds around. Any thoughts around that? Anybody want to add anything or give a testimony?